Tuesday night, Major League Baseball presents its 80th All-Star Game. St. Louis, which proudly proclaims itself baseball heaven, of course, has been waiting for this moment since it was announced 2.5 years ago that the All-Star Game would be played at Busch Stadium. They've hosted a couple of World Series here already this decade, but the All-Star Game is a whole different spectacle, and with home field advantage on the line for the World Series for the winner, this year's Midsummer Classic should be pretty exciting. For more on the game, let's send it out to St. Louis and Scott Miller and Danny Knobler. Guys.
Thanks, Lauren. Danny Knobler and Scott Miller, CBSSports.com here in St. Louis. Great American baseball town and home of one great American baseball player, Albert Pujols. And Scott, this is Albert Pujols' All-Star Game, the world coming to see him, and you spent some time with him today.
Yeah, he's very excited. He understands the responsibility of kind of playing, as somebody referred to him, he's the mayor of this All-Star Game. His stats are unbelievable. Leads the majors in RBI and home runs. Second in the National League, just behind Hanley Ramirez in batting average. But he's got a real chance to win the Triple Crown. It's going to be fun during the second half to see if he can. He also, Danny, if he just missed in the batting average side of things, he just missed becoming the first player in the game to lead in his league's Triple Crown categories since Hank Aaron in 1957. So we're watching one special player right now.
Yeah, a special player having a special season, and it's really appropriate that the baseball world coming to his home here at Busch Stadium. And the only thing that maybe isn't appropriate for Cardinal fans, for Albert Pujols fans, is that usually in the All-Star Game, the National League, at least recent years, doesn't win. Scott, it's been a long time since the National League has won one of these. Albert Pujols is a great player, but is there any real reason to think that's going to change?
Yeah, it's been 11 consecutive years that the National League has not won. 10 wins for the American League and the tie in Milwaukee. 1997 in Cleveland, I believe, was the last year the National League won. This year, I'm going to say anything's possible. I mean, when the game went all night long in Yankee Stadium last year, you know, it could have turned the National League's favor there, but it didn't. You see that, anything's possible, but I still think, Danny, the American League is by far the stronger league. When you see Detroit's Miguel Cabrera doesn't even make this team, how good is that league then?
It's a great league, and what shows is what happens in the interleague games where you see the American League once again dominating, and probably means more than any single game, but of course the All-Star Game gets a lot of attention. And part of the attention this year is going to the starting pitchers. Roy Halladay in the American League, Tim Lincecum in the National League. A lot of discussion about that, Scott. A lot of discussion about Roy Halladay, but also discussion about should those have been the two starting pitchers. Zach Greinke easily could have been picked the American League starter. Dan Herron easily could have been picked the National League starter. What do you think about that?
You know, I thought both was fine. I thought Greinke was going to be the guy, but he did tail off a little bit in June. He wasn't as good as April and May. Part of that, of course, is because the Royals have been just killed with injuries. Guys like Coco Crisp done for the year. So, you know, Greinke hasn't gotten as much help either, but it's hard to go wrong with Halladay, and this is going to be his biggest stage. He's probably the best pitcher in the game right now, certainly the best pitcher in the game that has yet to pitch on the big stage. He's never started an All-Star game and never pitched in October.
Which, of course, leads to the other storyline here. If there's a storyline and a player more talked about, or at least as talked about as Albert Pujols, it's Roy Halladay, because of J.P. Ricciardi's statement that he is at least open to listening to trade offers about Roy Halladay. Halladay, in fact, it almost sounds like, at least mentally, emotionally, he might be halfway out the door in Toronto, wouldn't you say, Scott?
Yeah, he spoke today, earlier today. I talked to Halladay for quite a while. He was very open about all the trade rumors, which is not his style. Usually he's close to the vest. He doesn't like to be the center of attention. He doesn't like to talk about that stuff. But, you know, he said essentially he loves Toronto. He'd love it if something could work out there, but he's at the point of his career. He wants to win. And he said sometimes you have to take chances, and it sounds like he's ready to take that chance, waive his no-trade clause if the Jays can put a deal together. And even if it's for a big market team that would be totally foreign to him, like the Yankees or whoever, it sounds like he's ready to take that chance.
It sure does, Scott. And you know, the other thing about this All-Star Game, we've got a lot of Phillies players, which makes sense because of them winning last year, how good they are. We have some Dodgers players. We have obviously a lot of Red Sox players. No surprise there. We got a lot of really great players, and baseball will tell you that home field advantage for the World Series is going to be determined here. We don't know how much that really means. Obviously, it didn't keep the Phillies from winning last year. Same thing in 2006 when right here in this stadium, not having home field advantage, but winning Game 5, the Cardinals beat the Tigers. So does home field advantage mean much? And second, do you like the idea?
I think the American League teams have just been that much better over the last decade. So it can mean a lot, but it hasn't. You know, as you pointed out in a recent column, Danny, 2 of the last 3 years, the National League's won the World Series, and they haven't had home field advantage. Now, we disagree here. I don't mind the World Series home field advantage being tied to the outcome of the All-Star game, because I just think the All-Star game, the tie in Milwaukee, was such an embarrassment that managers and players, especially managers, needed an incentive to manage to win the game rather than to play Little League rules and say, hey, everybody gets to play. I like it. You're not that thrilled with it.
No, I just like having a great exhibition, a chance to appreciate all the great players in the game and see them play, and let's not worry too much about how the game turns out. Let's see them play. Let's see them play well. Let's have a good time. And I think you can agree with that part of it.
Absolutely. You know, people say, and I fully agree, the baseball All-Star game historically has been the best All-Star game of any of the major sports. It's always, even before this quote-unquote now it counts, in a sense, especially when there were before interleague play, it's always counted. Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio, those guys used to play the whole game and really get after it. Pete Rose, and now it doesn't maybe mean quite that much, but it sure is a lot of fun in mid-July.
And no question, Scott, I think both of us looking forward to it on Tuesday night, the All-Star game at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. For CBSSports.com, I'm Danny Knobler with Scott Miller.
Guys, thank you so much. The National League has not won an All-Star game since 1996. You heard that right, 1996. The American League has won 11 straight All-Star games, not including that debacle of a tie in Milwaukee back in 2002. Will this be the year the NL can break through behind the pro-NL crowd in St. Louis? You know we will keep you posted, so stick around.